Move on. Straight up. Move on. Forget them. They are lying and they are untrustworthy. So move on. Now, sometimes this can be hard, especially if they've somehow tied themselves into your life, especially like, for instance, you get the kids involved in a divorce scenario. You can't move on, but you have to mentally move on. You have to emotionally detach from that human. And that's hard to do because obviously they were someone that you trusted. And the reason I know that you trusted them is because they got to a point where they were able to betray your trust and destroy you. So it's hard. But the fact that you trusted them, the fact that you had that relationship, that's even more reason to walk away. It's even more reason to move on. You got to see them for what they are. And this is an important piece right here. This is an important piece. This is something I learned as a young lad out there in the world. That person is not who you thought they were, right? They are not who you thought they were. The idea that this person was a trustworthy, faithful companion is not true. It is not true. That person does not exist. They didn't exist and they don't exist. It was in your head. It was in your head that this person was trustworthy and they were everything you wanted them to be and they were a faithful companion. That is a lie. They are not that person. They have proved it. They have proved it by their actions. So move on, and at the risk of sounding callous, get over it. Get over it. Do not dwell on what it was. And don't dwell on what it could have been. You hear when guys go through bad breakups, you know, I thought we were going to, it's like, no, don't dwell on that. Deal with what it is right now, what that person is. Deal with reality, accept reality, and be thankful for reality. Be thankful that you were able to learn before you invested more into this person. Be thankful that you found out when you did that this person was a liar, that this person was unfaithful, was untrustworthy. Be thankful that you know it. And you know it now instead of later. And you know what else is going to make it a lot easier to get over these situations? Is recognize that there's plenty of people out there in the world that are trustworthy and that are faithful, good people. They're out there. Go find one of them. But don't think that person that you had was the only one in the world. They're not. And you know what? Sometimes people have a hard time making that trust because they're so caught up and they don't want to meet someone else right away. That's fine. Start with yourself, right? Rely on yourself. Trust yourself. Because when someone breaks our trust, we question ourselves too.
Yes.
Like we think my judgment's bad. I'm not a good judge of human character because I totally put my faith in this person and look what they did to me. So now we don't trust her. So you got to build that trust up. You got to build that trust up back again with yourself. How do you do that? Read, write, learn, work out, be alone. It's okay to be alone. Some people get freaked out when they're alone. It's okay to be alone. It's okay. It's okay to be alone. There's no big deal. Enjoy it. Do something productive. And build that trust up in yourself. You know, look back at the situation, learn from it. We do that. It's an post-operational debrief. Oh, you've put too much trust in somebody? Cool. They broke your heart? All right, roger that. Let's see. What were the steps? What should I have recognized? How many times did I say, well, you know, they didn't call me, but it's probably just because their phone was out of battery. No. Once your phone runs out of battery once, okay, you don't let it happen again, right? Yeah. So you start seeing those red flags, see the mistakes that you made, and then look for them next time around. Because you deal with people all the time that they made mistakes the first run They go back and they make the same mistakes the second run. They go back and make the same mistakes the third run. That's when you got to start blaming yourself on your situation. That's why I said you got to like build a relationship with yourself. You got to learn yourself. You got to learn to trust yourself. So spend some time doing that. And then when you go back and you start dealing with people, because that's what you got to watch out for, is that you become a hardened criminal and you don't trust anybody. Like you were talking about cops. You know, sometimes cops have a hard time because they're dealing with scumbags all day long, and it builds up this mistrust of other people. So you don't want to have that happen. You want to be suspicious of people, but you want to be able to build trust once they prove themselves. So take those small steps and start to build up over time. Don't just jump in and give someone 100% trust out of the gate. You don't know them. You don't know them. You know, back in the day when old hardcore bands used to have this T-shirt that just said "Trust no one." It was like, yeah, that's legit, right? You don't go out of the gate with the big trust on somebody with important stuff. Don't do it. But the good news is, like I said, there's plenty of people out there that are good people that you can give all your trust to. Just take it slow, brother.
Yeah. And it's so crazy how you just explain that so simple. And it makes total sense when you're in the situation, though. All the emotions, you know? Like, you can't just detach and be like, what are the red flags? No, you're just too busy missing the person or whatever.
Yeah, you're a disaster.
So, and I
Tears,
get, but even
crying, throwing things, looking at pictures. That's the worst.
Yeah, don't look at pictures.
Get out the picture and stare. I've seen guys doing that. I'm like, bro, just give me that. Let me throw this away for you. It's not going to help. That person that was always to me was explaining, like, listen. Because guys, when she was no, she wasn't.
Yeah,
that is a lie. That person that you put together in your head, that you've assembled in your mind, that person doesn't exist. They don't exist. Yeah. The person that you dealt with was a liar. Yeah. Was unfaithful. Was a cheater. That's the person. The person wasn't this person that you're putting forth in your mind. That person doesn't exist. So stop.
But you don't understand the good times.
Yeah, I know.
Here's what it is. It's a trick. Here's the trick. Okay, so that person a liar, that person a cheater, and what I kind of said there was like, you don't understand the good time. That's a real part of it.
For sure.
That's really it. It's like, sure, they did this. Sure, she flats my tires when she gets mad. Sure, all that.
Oh, yeah,
but the good times we have are so good. So it's proof that it's not about the person. It's not about the person that you can see all the red flags and how they mistreat you from time to time, or they beat you. It's about yourself and how you're sad now because of all these reasons. But the trick comes with one of the tricks comes with same thing I said about drinking, where it's your brain, because it's like chemicals. When you bond with someone in certain ways, and it's different from, it varies from person to person, but it's like, I think it's like oxytocin or I don't know, something where
we'll go with just something.
Yeah, it's I don't want to go into it, but you feel this bond with this specific person. That's why you have these feelings. Right. Even though this girl lies to you, you see her lying text messages on your phone right now. You're looking at. Meanwhile, you still miss them. It's a trick because it's saying like that your emotional well-being is attached to this person, kind of thing, right? And all the other stuff you just kind of ignore. So just like how I was saying with drinking, right? Well, I know consciously I'm gonna be hungover tomorrow. I won't get anything done. All this stuff.
Weaker.
But why do I want to drink so bad right now? Kind of thing. And it's the same thing. The chemicals in your brain are telling you this girl is essential for you. For your well-being.
She's not.
Yeah. Oh, that's the logic though. That's the It's a trick.
Don't listen to your brain. Listen to me. She's not essential.
That's what
Move on.
Bro, I'm telling you. But that's the logic. Which those chemicals are blocking.
I have seen so many situations where guys are just in what's horrible is I'm sitting here saying this, you could be smacking someone in the face telling them move on, and they're not going to listen.
That's how
so you got to make that decision. Yeah, that's it's hard, and guys ruin their lives. I mean, girls do too. Girls and guys, they ruin their lives with over somebody that is completely abusive, whether mentally or physically, that just completely abusive, and they'll ruin their lives for this person. And see, in my mind, I think it's because they build a person on the framework of reality. They build a fantasy, and they're in love with that fantasy, and they want to keep it going.
Right.
It's a fantasy. So stop.
Yeah. And they
Get away
and they
from it.
ignore like all the quote unquote red flags,
for sure.
and they remember the good times, even if it's like 10 minutes a week. They remember those good times. They ignore the red flags because of that trick, that chemical trick in their brain, and it reinforces that thing that they built. That fantasy that they built. It's like, it's true.
Yeah.
It's this big. The reality is this big.
Yeah.
And look, the fantasy, and they just attach to it.
Yeah.
You ever see like a friend or whatever? Because I'm assuming you've never
See
been
what?
in this situation. Like, you ever had a friend where they're really into it, they're almost ruining their life, they're in bad shape or whatever, and then whether it be all of a sudden or years later or whatever, they're thinking back and they're like, "What was I thinking?"
Yeah.
Because the chemical trick, so to speak, wears off, and then they can see all that logic that you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh my gosh, man!" It's almost like you feel like you were a different person when you recover from that.
Talk, just the fact that you can't talk any sense into people when they're in that situation.
It's a trick.
You got to try and, it's hard. It's hard.
But I think knowing that that's it, it's a chemical in your brain that is tricking you. And it goes for a lot of stuff. Donuts, like all this stuff, it's tricking you. If you know, like, hey, and you say, hey, I'm not going to be tricked. I feel it. I feel this. I feel the sadness. I feel missing this person, but it's a trick,
Yeah. That's
that
good.
helps. It totally helps.
I like it. So, move on, man. I know it's hard. Trust us.
Speaking of moving on, next question. Unless we want to talk about this some more.
No, I think we need to move on.
Okay. Exactly, right? Let's move on. In what circumstances do you recommend direct attack?
Hold on.
Oh, we're not moving on. You're stuck on it.
No, but what's horrible is, man, people kill themselves
Yeah.
in these situations
yes.
over a lie.
Yeah.
That's to me,
The
that's
trick.
the trick. But it's a lie. And guys or girls get so distraught over this fantasy that doesn't exist. And what's really jacked up is if they could just move on, they'd find a reality that was actually congruent with what their desires are.
Yep.
It's out there.
Yeah.
You see people all over the world. They're in relationships, having fun from every level, right?
Yeah.
There's someone out there, but you get caught up in this mental trap and obsessing over a fantasy. It's a fantasy. Don't obsess over the fantasy, man. You can get over it, and there's plenty of other human beings out there that are awesome. So go find one of them, and in the meantime, hang out with your badass self,
Right.
and become a better person.
Man, working out is a big one.
For
Huge
sure,
one.
for sure. That's 100%. Just get in the gym and get after it. Jiu-jitsu solves everything.
Yes.
Lifting solves everything.
Yeah.